This is Pre-Market Prep. I'm Brianna Valesky here with my co-host Joel Elkana, and we're joined by Rachel Shasha. She's a trader and blogger at Sassy Options. Rachel, thanks for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get your take on the overall market right now. What are you seeing?
So, besides the chop and the range that we're staying in terms of just short term, like this week, I had wrote over the weekend, and if anyone goes to my Twitter, they can find my blog, and it's in my blog. I had looked at the open interest, as I always do, and it was showing a lot of puts at 210. So I figured there's a good chance we're going to bounce. So I came in Monday with buy calls, which was good. Sold 95% of them because this market doesn't really hold anything. And I said, if we fall back below 210, then odds are we're going to stay within the range of 208 and 210. I still think that is a decent possibility that today we can kind of stay within the 208, 210 range. However, if we do fall back below 208, I definitely think that there's a good chance that we revisit lows from last week and possibly get down to 205 in SPY. So that's kind of a game plan for anyone who's, watching it or looking at it, staying within 208 and 210, probably going to stay range bound. Above 210, we have a shot at 211, and then below, you might think that we're probably going to take out last week's lows. So that's where I think we are. And in terms of like where it is overall, I think that we're just, mostly correcting through time. And whether or not we make a new high before a new low for the year, I don't know. I don't think the correction is over, though. I don't think we're just going to blast off now to new highs into the end of the year. So that's my overall picture in terms of SPY.
What about specific stocks? Any long or short setups you're looking at right now?
So, I definitely have more short setups than I used to. I think that one of the stocks I always loved playing long was Monster, but I actually think it's looking like a good short right now. It didn't hold its earnings, and now it has kind of like a double bottom, so it definitely could bounce from here. But once it takes that out, I think that, it's definitely going to at least 140 and possibly lower. I think, so one of the ones I'm anticipating working with after earnings is Fossil reports tonight, and I think that it is overall a big short. But if they even have a tiny bit of good news, it might pop. So I'm hoping that happens, and then I could sell into the pop tomorrow possibly. So I have those for shorts. And then, just these big momentum stocks, I feel like anytime, they're not necessarily shorts like long-term shorts, but anytime they rally, they seem to give it back. Anytime something rallies, it gives it back. Google, the exception today, but that's on news. But Amazon, Apple yesterday popped, now it's giving some back. LinkedIn, Baidu, when they pop, it's almost like, all right, sell them now. It's not going anywhere.
Anything on your long radar? I know you just mentioned your shorts.
Right. Yes, I really do like Amazon. I think it still could pull back more. A lot of the momentum stocks I've noticed are pulling back to their 20-day, and then they're going from there. So it definitely has potential to maybe get around, 505, 510, somewhere around there. But in terms of longer term, giving it a few weeks, I really, really like Amazon. I like ISRG, but that's also something you kind of have to swing because it has lots of ups and downs, and it's very volatile. And especially if you're trading with options, it's hard to play. I do like Priceline. I think that, once this initial, earnings give up takes place and settles down a little bit, I think it has a good run left. Let's see what else. Facebook, but I think it needs some rest. Like in terms of like right now, what I like long, it's so hard to say when like the market is dropping.
Right.
I like Google. I do like Google, and I think that could continue to run possibly today, especially if people are like, where do I put my money now? And something's working.
All right, Rachel, we have a couple stocks coming out of the chat here. I'm not sure if they're ones that you follow, but if you could just give your quick technical analysis, we got three for you. Downward says GNW looks like a bottom fundamental story. Company's worth more, closing up shop. What do you think of GNW? Genworth, I believe.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily look like a bottom to me. I definitely think it looks like a bounce, but it really needs follow through. And in terms of this kind of stock, I would think it needs follow through for more than one day. There definitely is like a capitulation type of selling off. So I think it has a chance, and it's very oversold now. So definitely think it has a chance for more. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bottom, or I would say if it is going to be a bottom, I would do it as a swing because I doubt it's just going to go straight up from here. You know, it might have a bounce and then maybe kind of like, you know, vacillate within a small range and then go back up. But it looks, you know, it's still a chart that's very messy. And, you know, I don't know about the company or anything, but in terms of the chart itself, it looks like a bottom for now, but I don't know necessarily that's the bottom.
Right, and I think you're kind of illustrating a point that, you know, I think a lot of our guests that we have on, Nick Shaheen or Harlan Pine or yourself, it's good that, you know, you can have an opinion on something. You can pick a point. You can think that's a bottom, but you're a lot better if you think this is a bottom here, keeping an eye on that 2-day low. And if it takes it out, I mean, limited risk, cut bait, you know, maybe we'll go right back up, but just give you a chance to reevaluate your position. Larry in the chat, AER just made some good money on overnight's earnings. Stellar company will buy again on pullback. AER, is that a chart you've looked at recently?
So wait, did it just pop now on earnings or like did it just report today?
Yep, it did report today.
Oh, okay. See.
Yep.
So, I mean, the chart looks amazing. You know, it definitely looks like it's set up to go higher. It looks like it went to 51.24 overnight, and now it's kind of back at 49.5. I think that, I mean, from this angle, it looks great. So unless people are going to sell into this earnings thing, I think once it takes out 51.24, it's off to the races. It looks like a great chart.
Yeah, 51.50. That was your former all-time high made on June 3rd. And then Rachel just made a reference to the pre-market high, which was a double top at 51.24. In the chat here, it looks like Rightus. She likes to follow the small caps here, and a lot of people do as an indication of where the market's going. Take a look at IWM for us.
I will, but the only thing with that thinking of I like to look at, you know, the small caps is where the market's going, is the market hasn't necessarily followed the small caps. You know, I think intraday could help watching it, but, you know, we've seen the small caps over the last year, longer than a year now, really, you know, split off from the rest of the market. So I wouldn't necessarily look 100% at it, but from here, you know, it doesn't look good. It looks like it's been topping for a while and, you know, has lower to go. But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily just short right here because it's been tough, you know, to hang on. But it has great support at around 119 where it stopped last week. And I think that, you know, if it takes it out again, you know, first see the double bottoms around there. But it takes it out again and doesn't recover quickly, then, yeah, I definitely think it has a date with maybe 115 or 114. But I wouldn't necessarily say because that might happen that the rest of the market's going to follow lead.
When you look at that on a weekly there with the two bottoms at the same level, would you, you know, now would it be coming down at the third time? Would you whack it going through there the third time, or would you wait to see if it bounced one more time and try and short into the bounce?
I would wait to see if it bounced one more time and short into the bounce.
And then if it did take it out, you knew when it came back up to that level, it would act as resistance. Well, did you get down and dirty in AQXP yesterday?
I did not. I didn't even touch it. I don't even know how people go for that. I feel like that, when people trade that, it's more like a challenge. Yeah, I mean, how could you trade a stock like that?
Good
it's all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have the stomach for it and use the right risk-reward ratios. All right, well, it's 9:12 into the show, and 12 minutes into the interview, and I haven't asked you about your Goldman Sachs indicator yet. After earnings here, maybe a little pressure on the financials today. What's your Goldman Sachs put indicator? Could you explain it and tell me how you use? I mean, I know it doesn't give you exact signals, but how you like to figure it in as part of your trading.
So I like to look at the open interest for Goldman Sachs because it really does, for the most part, I would say 95% of the time, it stays within the range of its high strike call and put. Sometimes it doesn't have like a high strike, and so if it doesn't, then it has like free reign one way or the other. But if it has, it always has at least one high strike, either on the calls or the puts, sometimes both. And it oftentimes will tell me basically how the market is going to trade, because I'll tell you, I feel like GS trades better with the market than maybe IWM. It's almost always will give you an indication of where the market's going. So I like to look at it throughout the day. But right now, in terms of the open interest this week, it looks range bound. It's like there's a high strike of 200 and 210, which doesn't give you much. It means this kind of tells me the market's going to be range bound this week as well. And I am looking for GS to go to 200. I think that is going to be a buy, not necessarily a buy to hold, but a great bounce will come from 200. So I've just been waiting. I have a trigger on it, and I think it's a good place to take along. And then I think actually Goldman Sachs has a date with maybe around 190s.
Ooh.
I mean not necessarily this week, but I think it has a date there in the next few weeks probably.
Do you so? And just to further explain, when you see those parameters in the options, you don't expect it to go above the call price or below the put price?
Correct, but it does sometimes go above or below, but that's the time when you want to take the short or the long.
Okay, all right. Just another tool in your toolbox. We've had just a lot of discussion over the last couple of days here on Twitter, and I know you mentioned it at the top of the show. Just do you trade the stock? Do you you use the service? You got a long-term and short-term opinion on Twitter?
For me, it's a no touch right now. I don't see it's not giving much. So it's here and there it's pop, but it seems to be based on news, not even on the chart itself. So and it doesn't give you much. It gives you a few points here and there. When there's something like a Google or an Amazon will give you 10 points in a day. I don't see the point in trying to figure out what Twitter's going to do in the next minute, because it just seems range bound and going lower overall.
But you make use of the service and a good way to communicate, but not investing in the stock.
Right, and let me tell anyone who's listening that the open interest for this week, there's a lot of call strikes at 30.
Yep.
So if you have a long, I would consider taking profits if it gets to around 30 or over.
Yep, I would. That would be good. Yeah, a little bit down on the skids today. Have you got active in Apple at all? I mean, I know you like to trade a little bit. Stocks move a little bit more, but that had some nice movement. Break down to the 112 area, snapback rally. Any thoughts on the biggest component in the S&P 500?
I think it still has a little bit lower to go. I would love to buy it around 105, 107.
Whoa. Oh, Rachel, you sound a little bit bearish this morning, Rach.
I know. I'm not saying it's going to happen this week, but I think we're not done going lower.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you just look at the overall market, I mean, we've just been so range bound here. And when I read in Barron's over the weekend that we've had our longest losing streak in 4 years, of 7 days in a row, I'm like, hey, I didn't clean up on the short side yet, so still relatively close to all-time highs. Just one final issue here for you to take a look at, and we've had some questions here about the oil patch. And ExxonMobil got killed off earnings, just had a snapback rally yesterday. Do you have any long-term interest here in ExxonMobil?
None, zero. Why bottom pick? Why bottom pick when there's other things moving?
Okay. All right. Well, you've given us some of your short candidates, some of your long candidates. Talked about the overall market. Do you do anything with the commodities at all? Like for the crude, the USO, or gold, the GLD?
Nope, don't touch them.
Nope. No, trade what you know.
Trade what you know.
We've been on the lane on the line with Rachel Shasha. She's a trader and blogger at Sassy Options. She joins us every month or so to give us her interpretation of the markets. She uses a mix of technical analysis, open interest, and sentiment in psychology. Rachel, we know where your sentiment is leaning today. Thanks a lot for coming on. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.